Britain, an ancient kingdom with legends of violence, cruelty, and torment in its blood. Join your hosts, Ross, John, and James, as they bravely tread where few would dare. Witness their journey into the horrific history of British horror. They are the General Witchfinders.
Hello listeners, this is Ross here. Because John is super rushed off his feet with work, we haven't been able to record an episode. So to give you something to listen to, I fished out an old episode of a podcast James and I used to do back along. We did it for about 10 years. It was called Creeping With Armstrong. There's a few episodes still left on the internet, but most of it is sitting on a hard drive. I thought it would be a good opportunity for you to hear that same dynamic. But this is from April 2010, I think. Listening to it, it seems to be recorded just after Matt Smith's first ever episode as Doctor Who. There's a little bit of horror in there, so it might scratch that itch. But if this is the first time you are listening to General Witchfinders, this is not what the podcast is usually like. Go and listen to another episode, and then maybe come back in a couple of weeks' time. But until then, if you want to listen to this, enjoy, and we will catch up with you very soon.
You've stumbled upon Creeping with Armstrong.
10, 9, we have ignition sequence start. Engines on, 5, 4, 3, 2, all engines running.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, from we can now say the international Creeping with Armstrong. We've now ventured into another country, no less. We are broadcasting to you this afternoon from the
centre of the Hooniverse.
The centre of the Hooniverse. I was going to say the glamorous locale of Cardiff, Wales.
Yeah.
We are here with...
Site of the rift in time and space.
Yes.
Probably only about a mile from the epicentre. As the crow flies.
Don't get more excited than that. And
No.
we are delighted to say that we are joined again by our old friend of many, many years, returning guest on Creeping with Armstrong. Can't believe that we're still doing it, but lo and behold, we are. Ladies and
What are
gentlemen,
we
John
doing?
Pountney.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah,
It's like being in with Steve Wright in the afternoon.
Yeah, it is.
Love the show.
What are we going to talk about?
I don't know. What are we going to talk
You said
about?
you'd prepared some questions.
Oh no, we was going to talk
theories.
about theories for Doctor Who. Well, John is a big Doctor Who fan.
Whovian.
He's
Whovian.
quite
I'm a
close to
keen
the
Whovian.
production in more ways than one. But we was having a discussion on the way up here. We still haven't seen the second episode of the season 5, which is on later this evening.
Which airs tonight.
Yes.
Like about 6:15.
Yeah.
Yes,
right?
correct.
Yeah, so we're going to... But,
So I'm going to miss that.
yeah, I'm going to see that when I get home. That'll be good. But we was just having a little discussion on the way down here, weren't we,
Yes.
James? And,
We were.
well, we've been talking about Amy, and we was thinking, what is her relationship with the Doctor going to be?
Yes.
My theory was... it seemed that she's been obsessed with him from a
Yes.
young age, and there's the whole thing about, she's been drawing pictures of her, making people play games, like what's she called? The Raggedy Doctor?
The Raggedy
Yes.
Doctor, yes.
Yeah. And I was thinking about Munchausen by proxy, the thing where people can't tell their fantasy life from their real life.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was wondering if it was going to... Because they did that whole thing when Silence of the Library where the girl who was inside the library was actually a computer program and it was all part of her dreams and stuff. And Moffat seems to like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they were saying it's all like... they're trying to make this a lot more fairy tale-like.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, would it be something where Amy... wasn't quite sure what was real and what's not. So if she's been suffering from that from a while, about, the sort of make-believe world and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
It might be a case of like, I don't know, I'm trying to work out what he could do with that, but I think the whole thing where she might get back, and then people might convince her that it was all part of her sort of fantasy, delusion and stuff like that. So that was an idea I had. But James has had an even better one. But, but I just want to hear what John thinks of that idea.
I don't think that they... I think that's an interesting idea, but I don't think they'd necessarily want to do that to the companion, because I think the way the production team, whichever production team it is, thinks of the companion as being the viewer's eyes of the adventures. A lot less now. It used to be a lot more that the companion would be the way that the Doctor would get into peril, and then he would have to save the companion, and that was normally how the story would start. That would be the mechanical aspect of opening a story. Someone would fall down a lift shaft or something.
Classic.
And then it would come back next episode, and she didn't actually fall that far.
Or it was Sterling Moss in his own
lift shaft. Didn't you cry when you found that out, John?
Yes, I did cry. Because I've met Sterling Moss. He's he's a really nice man.
Well, I got a friend who does another podcast called Alton, and he said that's where his hobby. He loves Formula One, and his job fixing lifts
suddenly came together.
And it's apparently he's got a friend who's been around and worked on his lift, and he's got lots of different gadgets and stuff. And
a lot of his gadgets are designed by the Williams head of engineering, Patrick Head.
Wow, he's like a real life James Bond then.
He is. Yeah, but he gets all his suits and shirts made in Hong Kong, because that's where the best tailors are.
Wow.
So we will fly out, have a load of clothes made, and then fly back.
Brilliant. Jet set lifestyle.
But it always makes me think of when you hear about celebrities with gadgets, about how Paul Daniels, who has spoken to me on Twitter, by the way, recently.
British television magician of the 1980s.
How he's got a...
he's a bit like that one that got his head bitten off by a white tiger recently. But more physically repulsive.
Yes.
But not a lot.
Was it Siegfried and Roy?
Siegfried and Roy, he's not dead, Siegfried.
Well, he's not
Roy.
dead, he's just mentally incapacitated.
But how Paul Daniels has got, like, hoovers built into his walls. So he doesn't have to drag a hoover around, he just...
pulls them out.
Switches on a wall.
No, he screws like a hose into like a special vent. And then
is it like the wall on...
I thought... Jamiroquai's virtual insanity video. He just stands there,
turns the room upside down, all the dust falls out, and he sucks it out the bottom.
That's a weird noise.
Or it's like a moving wall in that game with Dale Winton where they have to stand in a stupid shape.
Bring out the wall!
Yeah. It's just called a hole in the wall.
Hole in the wall. Where it just sweeps away the dust.
Yeah.
And Debbie, whatever her name is.
Debbie McGee.
Yeah.
Whizbit, of course.
Swept into destiny.
But James, you want to tell us your theory?
Okay, my theory is my theory is quite simply and straightforward, that Amy Pond is the daughter of the Doctor and River Song. And why? Because when the Doctor turns up, he says, "Where are your parents?"
Yes.
And she says, "They're not here. I'm just looked after by my aunt."
Yeah.
She doesn't say they're dead. She just says they're not here.
Yes.
And then later on, when she's talking about the apples,
yes,
he makes the comment, "She sounds really good, your mum." And I just thought, oh. And then, of course, River Song is due to come back into it in a few episodes' time. Yeah. And I thought, because the whole thing is we've talked about how they've done the whole kind of companion as, like a love relationship. A companion as a friend, a companion as a father figure as well. They haven't done a parental relationship.
And I was saying in that first episode, there was a bit where when the Doctor said he was going to come back for it, they cut back to the young Amelia,
and she
heard the TARDIS noise, and she looked up and she smiled. And I was thinking, is that when he reunites River Song with her, maybe later
I have it on good authority.
Don't not any bad spoilers.
Amelia Pond may make future reoccurrences in season 31, as I like to call it,
which is 5 or 6.
Whatever this one is.
Oh, right, 5.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yes. Anyways, that was just my one, and it was just literally the way and the emphasis on when he went, "She sounds really good, your mum."
And they're definitely going to bring back that face on an apple at some point,
and not say your dad. Or she sounds really good, your mum.
Someone's going to. You're going to see someone with an apple face.
Yeah,
apple face. That sounds really 80s Who villain.
It smells like a smell. It sounds like a Russell T Davies villain.
Yeah,
it's got a ginormous apple for a face. It'd be marvellous.
I was going to say, be careful, James, but he's not here anymore. I think he's gone off to LA.
Who's that? RTD?
Yeah, he's in LA now.
He's a close personal friend of John's. John's run into him on a couple of occasions.
He's texted me, I'm in the lift with RTD, he's enormous.
I've met him twice, he's a very nice man.
And you saw him in Smith's and you were too scared to talk to him?
That was the first time.
That was the first time. He is the most immensely tall person. Imagine someone playing the cyber controller and it actually turning out to be RTD. That's how tall he
Beck
is.
likes the way that on one side of his face he looks normal, the other side he's just hideously warty.
You can't say that.
I they gave up halfway round.
I was thinking, I read an article in the Times the other day saying various things, slagging off Doctor Who for various things, most of them being quite right, really, with RTD introducing this Messiah complex thing. And some of his more far-fetched episodes were crap.
Yeah.
And were just bollocks.
I just think, to me, I just immediately think of when they're in the future and they're in sort of like the TV episodes, like The Weakest Link and the Anne Robinson bots, and then that was
hopelessly dated now. Well, hopelessly dated, literally the minute it aired.
Yeah, but I was saying that Doctor Who is always hopelessly dated as minute it comes out because it's a very, very much a show of its time, and that's the whole thing about, like, the Beatles are in the chase.
Yes,
for example, so they make they try and catch up everything which is like the zeitgeist at the time, and that's why I think it's always been so popular.
Yeah,
because it does change, it regenerates.
But it does have a lot of key parts that transcend any kind of setting, like Sherlock Holmes in that way. Always got the mystery element, the relationship between Watson and Holmes. Yeah, the deductive aspect is what people still find very interesting, and that's the thing with Doctor Who. It's always got the TARDIS, always got the Doctor himself, it's always got a companion in peril.
What do you think of the new TARDIS in, John?
I like the outside very much. I haven't formed an opinion on the inside yet because I'm still...
You haven't seen it much of it. If you're not watching Confidential, you wouldn't have seen much of it at all.
No, because I believe Confidential spoils it slightly, and I like to watch the episodes just as a piece of TV.
Have you been on the set of the old TARDIS?
No, I've been in Sarah Jane's loft where Mr. Smith is. I haven't been on any Doctor Who sets because they'd de-rigged the TARDIS set and were just about to build a new TARDIS set when I was in a boat.
I thought you were going to say because they'd heard I was coming and you guys rob it blind.
I did see the exploded previous TARDIS.
Yeah, we should explain. John is a photographer.
Yeah.
And he's taken pictures of the Doctor production team for Doctor Who magazine, haven't you?
He is Beth and Stephen.
And this is the one which one of the Doctor Who podcasts I listened to were all taking the piss out of his jacket Piers was wearing in that picture you took.
Why was that?
They're just saying this is his spiffing jacket.
Well, I thought that he looked quite like Peter Davison's Doctor that day because he had similar hair and the jacket was cream, which doesn't come across in those pictures because I think they're black and white in the magazine. Mm-hmm. But he does look quite like Davison's Doctor.
So when you met Moffat,
yes,
is he quite grumpy?
He was kind of grumpy, but he's obviously a really nice guy and very approachable, and if you cut him open, it would probably say Doctor Who through his veins or something. He was somewhat incredulous, but it worked very well in terms of the pictures because my assistant that I took with me that day, Kirsty, has never watched Doctor Who and owned up to never having watched Doctor Who in front of him. And that's when he started to pull very grumpy faces because he couldn't believe she'd actually never even seen Doctor Who, which there can't be many people who haven't seen Doctor Who.
A friend of ours
in this country, anyway.
Yeah. Well, my girlfriend's brother's girlfriend.
Yeah, my girlfriend.
Brother's
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, your future sister-in-law,
possibly.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Only possibly.
Only if the brother and
sister.
Right. Yeah.
I thought, but yeah.
Controversially, there.
No.
I was told he's not getting married.
I was told there'd be no
math. Get a pair of size 12 shoes.
Yeah. Well, we've been shopping today for some wedding outfits and having problems finding shoes that would fit my elephantine
feet. So he's hoping to regenerate in time and get size 8 feet.
Ross has been aghast at the price of shirts as well. It's been brilliant.
100 British pounds.
But anyway.
I can't remember. She's never seen Doctor Who before, and she was at my house, and she goes, "So how does it work? Is he dead?" Because she couldn't work it. I had to try and explain regeneration.
Yes.
So is he dead? I said, "Well, he sort of died."
How can you?
It's strange, isn't it?
How can you not be aware of something like that has been?
Well, we're big fat geeks.
Yeah, but it's been part of British culture for 46 years. This is what I find about a lot of this generation, is that a lot of kids these days, and I say kids about when we were our age, we were that age of being, say, 8 to 15.
Mm-hmm.
All we probably did on a weeknight was watch telly.
TV, absolutely.
Because we were too lazy to go out and do anything.
There wasn't much else to do.
There was nothing else to do. There was no computer games.
Yeah.
There was no illicit drinking. There was no drugs. There was no internet.
Yeah.
So all we did was watch BBC One, probably not ITV. CITV was very poor.
Yes.
Maybe perhaps for Nightmare or... what else was on CITV?
Dramarama Spooky.
Yeah,
Dramarama Spooky. Now we're talking.
I sent that to Charlie Brooker the other day. He was asking for the scariest thing you ever seen on TV on Twitter. Yeah. And I said it was Dramarama Spooky when it was about someone was trapped in a school and it was ghosts of girls who got killed by a doodlebug. And you kept hearing like the sound of the doodlebug. And then they said,
I'm scared now.
See,
and they said when the bomb went silent, you knew it was going to drop.
Yeah. The engine had cut out. Yeah. See, automatically, what Ross is describing there sounds more fun than going and sitting on a wreck somewhere with some hooch and getting pissed out your face and made pregnant by some...
And happy slapping
jippo.
Someone.
Yeah. And then filming yourself poking someone's... Oh, never mind. But, so I'd much rather watch Dramarama than get impregnated by a jippo.
Or read a Choose Your Own Adventure book.
Well, exactly, yeah, with... an American Indian armed with an axe.
Have you seen
in some cabin, and all you do is walk in and he chops your head off. And start that story again.
I think that was the Horror of High Ridge one you're describing.
Something like that. Yeah, he's not far off.
If you look on the next Week on Geek email out, there's a website which I'm putting on there where people have been changing the names of Choose Your Own Adventure covers. So they got the original cover and they changed the name. So there'd be like some guy sort of like coming out of this box and all like rainbows and flying chairs and stuff, and it just says, "What the fuck?"
Well, really randomly in one of the English classrooms that I've been teaching in at school. It's not like my room. It's just I teach the one class in there, and as is always the way with like big and sort of schools that have been going sort of 50, 60 years, that you do occasionally find very dusty and old books around. And you're like, geez, where's this come from? Like one book was called Your Birthday, 26 April. And it was just like a book that featured all the events that had happened if you'd been born on the 26th of April. And I was like, how's this ended up in school?
If it was the 23rd of April, then you were probably William Shakespeare.
Oh, wow.
Because that's his birthday.
Good work.
And St. George's Day.
Swell of patriotism. But then, but inside the one classroom was a copy of Steve Jackson's Fighting Fantasy, the first one.
Brilliant.
And on the front, it's just a picture of sort of like a tiger style. Tiger style bloke going like that with like both his arms up in the air as if poised to strike.
Not happy.
And
the first one was the Warlock
of Firetop Mountain. Yeah, I've read that one. Yeah, I was always getting trapped in a dungeon in that. Sucks.
It's the last thing you want. The best thing I remember.
Did you do what? I used to hate watching people play it when they got all their fingers in the books, holding places so they can go back. Don't do that.
This ain't quantum physics.
Then start to the beginning.
I did have a Choose Your Own Adventure Star Trek. As in the classic series.
They did spin it off because I had the Batman and Superman one, but the Superman one was brilliant and had some like really crazy endings, like one where Superman turns this ray on Lex Luthor, which turns Lex Luthor into a baby, and he says pretty much, we can go and start his personality from scratch. And just even then, understanding continuity as a kid, I was like, they can't do this.
Nature, nurture.
They can't end this. Like, wow.
On this site, there was Star Trek Next Generation Choose Your Own Adventures, and they go on and they changed the title to Data as a Vampire. I'll show you it. It's really good.
That sounds brilliant already.
Okay, well, speaking about that dovetails quite neatly talking about TV and the like, because on the last one, me and Ross started talking about how the first 18 rated film that you see illicitly, it does have like quite an impact on you in terms of like the movies you end up liking. So I wondered, what was yours, John?
I can remember mine. It's a film called Witchboard, which I would have watched perhaps in the summer of 1989 in my friend Tom Scrooby's house in Stratford-upon-Avon. 4 of us camped over in his garden, and it was a bit like what's that film that I have never seen but I know what it's like, with young kids and they rites of passage kind of River Phoenix, isn't it?
Stand By Me.
It's a bit like Stand By Me.
Well, the film was, or the actual sleepover?
The sleepover was a bit like Stand By Me. We didn't find a dead body, but I remember crawling down the bank of a stream and finding some of that poisonous algae in the stream and being very scared not to touch that because it was blue algae. But then we watched a film called Witchboard, which I can't remember anything about.
I'm just trying to trawl through my mind. I think, did the cover feature like a scantily clad woman lying on her back?
No.
All right, okay. No, that's
that was the cover to all your video collections.
Yeah, I was about to say, we'll move swiftly on. Sorry, John, carry on.
The cover, I think, was some hands in a kind of this position. What would you call it?
Cupping.
Like a cupping, like a
you're about to
lotus
catch
flower.
a cricket ball or a baseball.
But within that demonic giant hand was a woman as if she was trapped. Trying to get out. So maybe you...
No. This isn't the one that I'm thinking of.
So if you can imagine, say, an independent video store in the 1980s that you don't see the type anymore.
You don't.
Smells of fags.
Yeah.
Enormous plastic boxes.
Yeah, boxes are really big.
Boxes.
Really
At
big.
least double the size of the actual tape.
Padded.
If they hadn't used those, the world's oil supplies would be really able to drive cars for like another 100 years, I reckon. We must have burned through so much making them.
And it was probably
all for a copy of Jumping Jack Flash.
Yeah,
always seems to be available.
Apparently
dwarfed by some giant toothbrushes.
Giant toothbrush and starcher. That's just burned into my mind.
I heard on another podcast they were saying that when ET came out, they made fucking loads of ET games for these ZX.
The Atari game.
2600.
More than were actually Atari 2600s in existence. They just had whack-a-mole in a landfill somewhere.
Yeah.
That to me sounds like the 21st.
Holding up the M4 for the next 25 years.
No, I was going to say that for me is the 21st century. If they remade Planet of the Apes again, that's what you'd find. You wouldn't find the Statue of Liberty. God damn you all! You made too many games.
Anyway, so let's go back to Witchboard.
Yeah,
Witchboard. Yeah.
Is it 2 words or 1 word?
It was one word. It's a play on switchboard, obviously.
Okay.
And it was something to do with demonic phone line possession. But all I can remember is a woman having her head cut off with an axe, and the stump having no blood in it, just being white. It looked like a pillow. And so we freeze framed this, and there was a long debate between there was a long debate between 12-year-old schoolboys as to why there was no blood coming out of this woman's neck, and that's all I can remember of the film.
But do you think that has sort of moulded your psyche in any way? Because we were supposed to saying that James was a sci-fi, he was Aliens. We think that sort of... And mine was American Werewolf in London and Terminator. So I think I'm like horror sci-fi.
Well, my first 18 would have been comparatively late because I wasn't allowed a VCR until about 1990. Yeah. Where I know a lot of people had them comparatively...
You had a horse, though.
Up to 5 years before that. I had a pony. I didn't have a horse.
And didn't it bite you?
Skippy, yeah. It pinned me up against the 5-bar gate and bit through my jacket.
And then they killed it.
And then it was sent...
Terrifying.
Hopefully it was sent to the canners to make some Win-A-Lot or something. Oh, glue, yes, even better. I can't remember where I was. Oh, yeah, so we didn't have a VCR. So what I would do to see films was to go to bed and get up again on Central, the ITV Midlands region at that time.
The non-BBC channel,
yes.
the commercial channel.
The shit station. Yeah. There was a season, always in the summer, called Friday Night Fright Night, which was always a season of Hammer horror films. So that is probably what formed my psyche with the book
Hammer,
The History of Horror by Dennis Gifford, which was a book I bought from a car boot sale in about 1989.
Brilliant.
Which has got some great photos in it.
Have you seen the Hammer Glamour book?
Yes, I've got the Hammer Glamour book. It's very strong.
But just to make Ross feel a little bit better, because when we did this before,
I've never seen a rat.
No, I was not mocking, but I was chuckling at Ross's psychosexual experience at watching American Werewolf in London.
Yeah, I'm really turned on by
or Brian Glover. The thought of Brian Glover in a pub.
That's enough.
Rick Mail at the... Brilliant.
Yeah, I think I possibly saw some of that on TV in about 1985, and my mother turned it off because she said it was vulgar. There's a bit where he's running through a forest. There's a bit where he's running through a forest naked. Is that right?
What? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think she turned that off because she could see his winky. But another film like that, which I saw comparatively early on, was The Company of Wolves.
Oh, yeah, that's
which
freakish.
is very freakish film with Angela Lansbury in. And
yeah, it's Red Riding Hood, isn't it? It's the
bit of films from that era. I could possibly put Labyrinth, Dark Crystal.
What about Excalibur? I remember seeing Excalibur and being quite weirded out by it.
That's quite weird.
That's an odd film.
Because the films are glossy enough and big budget enough to be effectively scary. Yeah. But they're not overladen with stupid effects that you watch it and go, this is shit, because it's all CGI. Like, the worst one that I've seen like that is I Am Legend, where for half an hour it's good, and then you see the CGI zombies, and you're just like, this is absolutely shit, because I'm not scared of something that looks like something from The Mummy Returns.
Now, what do you think of the use of CGI in Doctor Who then, John?
Partially good. When it's well used. For instance, in the first episode of this latest season, the 11th Hour, the bit with the snake coming down from the ceiling I thought was shit, and I could have done better. When I was about 12, I would use my Dapol action figures to make stop-motion films on a Canavision E60 video camera, which now you go on YouTube and kids do it now, which is quite heartwarming. Yeah. If chilling to see that people still do stuff like that, but a lot more high budget attempts, rather than me using a camera tripod with a Lenore bottle stuck to the top of it to make a space gun.
Yeah, but it was always Lenore bottles used to make all that sort of shit. It wasn't like with Leonard Nimoy's Light Camera Action when he showed you how to make a phaser out of one of them.
And Halloween one year on Blue Peter, they made a mask out of a Lenore bottle by splitting it in half and using the handles as eyes.
Ooh, okay, I see.
It's terrifying. You had to wash it out first, though.
Talk about film experiences. James, have you heard John's story how he saw the Transformers the movie?
No, because I feel I should say Transformers the movie was the first film that I was ever allowed to go and watch entirely on my own.
This is the cartoon version.
Yes, of course. Yes. 1986. Well, none of your Michael Bay shit.
Yeah.
All we want is...
and I remember going down and just going in thinking, this is so cool, I can sit wherever I want now. And so where did I go and sit?
Right
the very front row.
Until you got motion sick.
No, I loved it. I was just... Because it was in the massive...
John could sit wherever he wanted when he went to see it.
The story goes, we're talking about 1986, which of course is 24 years ago. Is that right?
I'm afraid so.
And basically, I'd been ill that day in school. I'd come home and had chicken supreme out of a can, which is my favourite food at that time. Not sure what I actually ate it with, possibly boiled rice. I remember that specifically. And then my mother said, as a treat, we're going to go and see Transformers the movie. It's on in the Waterside Cinema in Stratford, which I'm not sure is still there now. It's right by the banks of the Avon. Yeah. And there's a plaque on the wall outside showing where previous floods
have reached.
Yeah, the highest levels. But it used to be the cinema was held in the same room, which is quite a large room, as a multimedia, as they probably call it now, exhibition of the world of Shakespeare. Whereas basically there's a load of mannequins stuck in crevices in the wall, dressed as characters from Shakespeare plays. And then as the man spoke, there would be a spotlight on someone dressed as Bottom.
That is like some conceptual art.
Yes.
That would be nominated for the Turner Prize today.
What do you think we ended up doing at university?
So basically, we went down to the cinema. No one else had gone to watch this film except me and my mother, and they kept the cinema open to allow me to watch this, so I could lie on the floor at the front of the cinema on my own.
Despite the fact you were sick, malaise.
To watch this film. And it
changed
still stands up now, doesn't it?
You got the
Absolutely love, because that was just
the power.
The Macbeth and Hamlet all looking down there.
Yeah, the greats of Shakespearean tragedy, watching on as Megatron turns into Galvatron.
Jeez, Christ, it's fucking my mind.
Which does blow your mind as an 8-year-old. Because just before that, I'd started getting Transformers comic.
Yeah.
Which was very well written by a guy named Simon Furman, who was an excellent writer, and the guy Jeff Jeff Senior was the best artist on that.
I feel I should point out that if you are coming down to the Bristol Comics Convention, Simon Furman will be there. He's always there.
Simon Furman changed my life.
You can go and say it to him. He'll be delighted to hear
Target
that.
2006.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I've got all my old Marvel, UK Marvel Transformers comics with their headmasters and.
we feel we should
brilliant.
point out for the international geeks that what happened was that Marvel in the States had the Transformers license and ran on and did it for a little while, and then they stopped and they cancelled it. But Transformers, once again, this is Great Britain, we didn't have much else going on. It was still like huge over here.
The biggest selling comic ever.
There you
in
go.
Britain. More than the Beano in
yeah,
its peak.
Yeah, incredible.
Sold a huge
so it
amount.
was massive. So what they started doing was they said to people like Simon Furman, "Oh yeah, forget whatever the toy line's doing, or forget whatever anything,
Or the cartoon
Just do
series.
your own stories.
Yeah.
Go mental." And they were.
They confused the fuck out of me though, because it was a completely different continuity.
Yeah.
Well,
entirely
they
different
did try and
continuity.
tie in some of the continuity, but I think in the end they gave up.
Yeah.
Because there was no Galvatron. Am I right in thinking there was no Galvatron in the American comic strip?
Galvatron
Yeah,
and
I
Ultra
remember.
Magnus were trapped inside a volcano, and
Yes, they were.
yeah,
They
and,
were, yeah. That was
And
from the
frozen,
end
like
of,
sort of Pompeii people.
yeah. And
being
Blaster went down there riding two throttle bots like roller skates, and they teamed up with Action Force.
Yeah,
AKA
Well,
G.I. Joe.
That was when they found when they teamed up with Action Force. That was when Megatron, actually, Cleve, you've got this wrong, was trapped in a battle with Centurion in the London Thames, and that featured a cameo from Richard Branson. who had supposedly funded Megatron being pulled out the Thames.
Sounds about right.
But then I think Sharkticon turned up and towed the frozen body of Megatron away.
Awesome.
I'd love to read them all again because
you can get
they
them.
were very
You can get
well.
them. No, you can get them.
Yeah.
We'll sort that out for you. If you're coming down to Bristol, we'll make that
Target
happen.
2006 was the finest.
Because
story.
they killed Optimus Prime.
Yeah,
in the,
early on.
Like they played some sort of virtual reality game, and he got blown up.
Yeah.
And the image of him being blown up, I remember as a kid thinking, "Holy
What the
shit.
hell are we gonna? Yeah.
Yeah, but when you look back at it now, there's never any backgrounds. It was just like yellow flashes and stuff.
Doesn't matter."
But they brought. I
Doesn't
mean,
matter.
Remember Death Head?
Death's Head was brilliant.
Now he did get put into
And
the main Marvel universe.
he had his own.
Oh, so geeky. Oh, sorry, we've gone right off the geek.
He had his own comic line for a while.
He did?
was also in the Doctor Who comic strips in the Doctor Who
Yeah.
magazine.
What was the name of the Dalek hunter in Doctor Who comics?
Absalom
Dark.
Dark.
Yeah,
Even I know.
He had his own record, didn't he?
I don't remember.
I heard it on a Doctor Who podcast. He played his "I am Absalom Dark."
Well, there was a little fad of that in British comics for a while because at Gemma and Boo's wedding, friends who got married, Boo's
Yes.
in after 2000 AD.
Yes.
And when he went and DJ'd for a bit, he had a 12-inch Judge Dredd record from the 80s, which was just,
Yeah.
I can't even describe it. It was such a melange of styles.
But
It was
that's
like a
when
bit
people would
electro.
buy records of anything.
on the front cover of Oink
The
Mag.
cast of Grange Hill.
Yeah,
Press play.
There you go.
The
Cannonball.
cast of Saturday Swap Shop. I love that.
Sauce.
I love Maggie Philbin playing a record on a bass guitar.
on the cover of Oink magazine, my brother, we got Uncle Pig singing "Don't eat pigs because they're made of ham. Eat that nasty butcher man." Check it out, check it out.
Incredible.
We played that so many times.
There wasn't a
This pink
Transformers
flexi disc.
record though, was there?
Probably.
Well, the Takara Corporation probably protected it quite.
I'm going to look on eBay for the.
You'll be able to get them. You said, just hang on to Bristol. You'll be able to get them.
Absalom Dark was resurrected in one of the Virgin New Adventures novels as well, but in the end he died, and it was revealed that he was a clone of the original Absalom Dark.
Phew.
That's a very good. I can't think what it's called, but it was by Peter Darvill Evans, who was the editor of that line.
Now that is geek knowledge that we don't know to the table. That's brilliant, Sean. Well
I'm
done,
trying
man.
to think what it is.
So,
I've got it.
Would you like to see Absalom
Here in the
Dark in the
box.
new series of Doctor Who?
He'd be quite cool. Twin chainsaws.
Yeah, that's what
Dalek hunting.
that's what you want to
Would
get.
a chainsaw work on a Dalek?
Depends how sharp the teeth of the.
But isn't a Dalek got like a force field round?
Well, the new
Allegedly.
Daleks have. But the old-fashioned Daleks didn't have that.
Just
Couldn't
leap up
afford
on
How
it.
about Second World War Daleks? Yeah, I'm sure that's not Earth. That's
It's an alternative
It must be,
universe.
or perhaps a
maybe it's
Computer
like a
programming.
thing like the holodeck in
I think it's some sort of like
Next Generation.
British theme park
Yeah.
satellite or something.
Yeah.
And they've sort of
But it does look very good. And it's got, I think that's the one that's got Toby Thing in, who's a very good actor.
Toby Haddock? No, it's not the guy who did
Toby Flood.
Doctor Who's.
Toby Flood, is it?
I don't know.
He played that author that did In Cold Blood.
Truman Capote. Yes, and he is also in The Mist.
Yeah.
He's the guy in the which is brilliant.
He's a very good actor.
Oh, it's Churchill.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not Robert Hardy, though, is it?
A lot of the guest stars, I think, coming up in this season are incredible. Annette Crosby, with no fanfare at all.
Straight in, yeah.
Who else popped up? A few good actors popped up in the 11th Hour, I thought.
Well,
Margaret.
Ross is referring to One Foot in the Grave, the British sitcom that Annette Crosby was probably best known for.
I can't believe it. I've got a tree in my toilet. Oh, and answer the phone. I've got a cat in my hand.
There's a sausage
42971. 42971. There's always their phone number.
I'm sure if people internationally YouTube they'll find this and find it absolutely hilarious.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but they remade One Foot in the Grave with Bill Cosby
in it. And I remember seeing Bill Cosby on David Letterman talking about it.
What?
and he came out and he was like, so what are you working on at the moment?
Did he walk out like this?
Yeah. He jazzed it all up, of course. And he came and sat down and he said, so what are you working on at the moment, Bill? What are you doing? He went, it's a British show. He's crazy. You got to see this man. Somebody's dropped some litter on the floor. He goes and puts it to his door. I said if he did it over here, he got shot. So
they made him a lovable character with loads of kids. So basically, the Cosby Show.
Yeah, the Cosby Show, but he's just a bit more grumpy.
Yeah.
I wonder if David Rennick got any money for it.
Oh, he must have got a fortune. Yeah.
I bet they did have Eric Idle naked, pressed against their window.
That's one of the more memorable episodes.
I'd be very intrigued to see the Harvey Keitel version of Life on Mars. I'd like to see that. Just
with different ending. You know what happened at the end of that?
No.
Don't you? They were actually.
Spoilers.
No, this is a spoiler, but yeah, but it was. They were actually on a space mission to Mars, and he.
Yeah, ow!
Yeah, you don't know the end of this.
No,
they were on a space mission to Mars. While they were in there, they were in suspended animation playing virtual reality games, and his one, Sam Tyler's one, went wrong. Because he was doing some 70s cop sort of scenario, it went wrong, and then all the characters who were on the spaceship with him bled into it. So at the end, he opens up the thing, and then all the other characters come out of their other pods, and then they.
Do you know that just immediately says to me, Red Dwarf.
And then
Red Dwarf.
And then they step out onto Mars, and I think he was wearing loafers when he stepped onto on the surface of Mars. Nowhere near as good.
Oh.
Because of course Ross doesn't like Ashes to Ashes. What's your opinion on Ashes?
I don't like it
because I think Ashes to Ashes is better than Life on Mars, and I almost like it more than Doctor Who.
It's what a bulk. Yeah. It's science fiction for people that don't like science fiction. To me, it's people that
I think it's one of the strongest TV franchises that Britain has produced in the last 10 years.
I said to James, my idea how they can move it on next. Dean Hunt comes to the modern day.
Well, yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
But it'd probably just end up being a comic relief sketch in the end. But I reckon that's how they could move it on.
Yes, I think this is the last one they're going to do because you find out what the mystery is. Because last night got this season.
What, referring to Life on Mars?
This season, it's referring back to Sam Tyler now, but it's a lot darker. It's a lot more like Red Riding. I don't know if you saw the Red Riding.
That was brilliant. That was really good.
This is very dark. The first episode last week was very dark. Last night's episode was very dark. But they're now hinting that, obviously this will mean nothing to you because you don't really watch it, but one of the other characters, Shaz, they're hinting that she is also from a different time. And there was a really spine-tingling bit last night where they cut to her in Luigi's, the restaurant where they all congregate. The lights went down except on her, and then a little tiny bit of Life on Mars by David Bowie came out. And it was really, really well done. I just think the production values on it are probably better than modern Doctor Who in a different way.
Hasn't it got the same production? Hasn't it got Julie Gardner?
I think so. It's a BBC Wales production.
Yeah.
But it used
They're
to
be... They're at the Vanguard, aren't they, BBC Wales?
Yes.
Making it all happen.
Yeah, they are having the... Drama Village in Roath Basin soon, which is going to mean that Casualty moves there. The new Sherlock Holmes thing is here.
Are they doing
Mark Gatiss has written it.
Oh, superb. Brilliant.
With the guy from The Office, the ginger guy.
And Benedict Cumberbatch, isn't he in it? Yeah.
What the fuck is Cumberbatch? Who's
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Cumberbatch, that's
Porn star name, isn't it?
I think it's him and Tim from The Office.
Yes,
Oh,
but I
okay.
think that's a modern day.
Yeah, modern day.
Holmes.
And isn't
I've seen them shooting it around Cardiff.
isn't Moffat involved with it as well?
Moffat is possibly executive producer.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
So yeah, BBC.
Oh, there's a new
Wales,
thing coming on. I think it's BBC 4 with Mark Gatiss, and it's like if Victorian men went to the moon,
right?
and it's like they've got him in sort of his pith helmet.
And when's this on the radio?
No, it's going to be on TV.
Oh, right.
BBC 4, I think, and it's got like him sitting on top of this sort of Victorian sort of steampunk sort of capsule with like with a pipe and stuff. As if they were going, if they went
Yeah.
to
Like the whole Jules Verne.
yeah,
kind of
it
idea.
is that. That is.
Oh, it's Jules Verne.
My
Yeah.
friend Catherine saw him in Cardiff Town the other day. Very tall as well, and
Top
also
man.
gay.
Yes.
So,
Well,
perhaps
Cardiff.
it's a prerequisite, I don't know.
Maybe there's some kind of link between tallness and gaydom.
Can we say that?
I don't know, why not?
Why not?
I'm sure Nietzsche said it.
Well, both James and I are over 6 foot tall.
I'm gay.
Yeah.
Did either of you watch Survivors?
No,
No, I started watching
See,
it.
nobody watched it, and that's another thing that I love.
I was going to get it on
alone.
DVD.
It's been it's one of those things. Being a big comics geek, at the moment, BBC America are
Yes.
putting loads of ads into American comics, like especially for the new series of Who.
Yeah.
with him and it was like,
Really?
bloody hell, yeah.
That's nice
But
to
also
know.
for Survivors, they're really pushing it in the States.
Season 2 of Survivor. Season 1 was a bit like Neighbours
Yeah.
after the end of the world. And it
Yeah,
was
that's
quite
what
lame.
I thought.
Season 2, again, was much darker. There's a character in it played by Max Beasley, who was once Robbie Williams' percussionist.
He was his bongo player.
And his character is one of the best characters on TV I've ever seen.
Because I know he was a criminal. He was in prison in the first episode.
he's basically a murderer and a nihilistic, miserable murderer who
Brilliant.
basically goes around killing loads of people. But his character has no comeback for any of these crimes at all. And I think that's quite refreshing for someone just to have summary justice on the baddies, just basically strangles them or shoots them. And there's a scene in one of the episodes where there's this guy who's got a hernia or something, and he's struggling in some field. He's lying there dying, and basically Max Beasley just goes and smothers him to death. And all the other characters just look at him and kind of like go, "Oh well, that's
What
for
can we
the
do?"
best."
Yeah.
And just all walk off, and that's the end of the episode.
Did you watch the new Triffids at Christmas?
Oh, it looks so bad.
I watched
It looks
half of the first
so
episode. It
bad.
was so boring.
It was incredibly poor,
And it was all the changes they made for no reason.
pointless as usual. Yeah, absolutely pointless. The second episode was slightly better. They dispensed with Hannibal Lecter a bit too quickly. Is it Brian Cox?
Brian Cox.
Yeah.
Brian Cox was in it, obviously just in it because he was probably getting about 40 grand or something.
2 days work.
They threw it. They said, "Well, you have to do this voiceover and Doctor Who as well." That was in Wookiee Hole.
So they dispensed with him too quickly. I can't remember the ending. It was fairly shit. I do know that they're bringing back that thing with Dougie, not Dougie. Is it Dougie Henshall? What's his name? It's on ITV.
Primeval.
Primeval,
Ross
yeah.
likes
It was acted by
yeah.
you like the woman in it.
Yeah, Hannah Smith.
Yeah, it was acted by ATV.
Yeah, it's been sci-fi,
But
isn't
it's
it?
been recommissioned by someone else.
Or
'cause
Watch, one of those
Yeah,
weird
because
channels.
it was sold to so many.
Yeah, they show it on
Yeah.
BBC America in the States.
Right.
There's quite a big following there.
Parts of it were good, but parts of it were like, this week we're in somewhere and here's Big Ben in the background. This week we're somewhere, now there's Windsor Castle in the background.
Yeah.
And it was all a bit like, this is a tour around Britain for tourists with a giant snake in it.
Well, sometimes going back to Doctor Who,
Come to see the giant snake.
what was the name of the village they're in?
Nebworth.
Was it called Was it Nebworth?
Where's this? Oh, no.
The new Doctor
A
Who,
brand new one.
where Amy's from.
Nebworth?
I think it's Nebworth.
Well, where Oasis played in 1996.
Where all three of us
Went before
were
we
in
knew each other.
attendance. Before,
Yeah.
Oh, I
incredibly
knew you,
enough.
Jason.
No,
but
yeah.
different day.
Well, it's
what's the
filmed in
name?
Lambeth.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but
it's
she
a grand,
says, I'm telling you, she says Nebworth.
because I was going to say, what was the name of the village in Doctor Who comics, which they always have
Oh, not that. Stockbridge.
Stockbridge? It wasn't Stockbridge.
No,
no.
it's too close.
Oh,
Stockbridge
okay.
horror.
But I kid you not, I'm sure it's Nebworth.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
But I thought it was
But
good.
it's
I was
not-
like, that was one of my favourite things, that it was in London.
Yes. There's a few bugbears I've got with the new Who, and that's not enough for me to be like other fans that I see on the internet slagging it off, saying I will never watch this again, because I'm really pleased it's still on TV, and it is on TV. I'm really pleased you see kids playing at being Daleks in the street.
I would say it's better than all the RTD ones already, just that one episode.
Yes, that's true. But I'm a bit bored of story arcs.
No, I like story arcs. I don't see why people would slag that off.
It's just a bit boring, and I think you don't necessarily need someone at the end of this episode going, "Silence will fall, Doctor."
There's a better way of doing it than that, though. I agree. The way they bring back a phrase or something.
They could do it rather than it being so ham-fisted, like, "Your singing will come to an end, Doctor," or "Your shoes will be muddy." One day your shoes won't fit, Doctor. That kind of stuff. And also I miss a kind of where the terror and the imperative of the episode is not the end of the world or the universe, but it's just the end of
we're going to die.
a village or an oil rig.
I said this before, is that I hate the fact that it's always like, it's got to go global now.
Exactly.
And I was like, why couldn't it?
Well, it's because they've gone too big and they can't ever go back.
No, they can't go back, because that's what I hated about the RTD ones, is when you've got the TARDIS lassoing the world and flying through space, it's like, all the atmosphere would boil and disappear. What the fuck would they do with all the communication satellites that would suddenly crash into the Earth, and the fact that everyone would turn on the TV and there wouldn't be a picture, rather than Professor Richard Hawkins, or whatever his name is, going, or Barbara Windsor going, "There's a Cyberman in my pub." Absolutely pointless.
See, for me, that was the moment when I really thought, not only can I... It was that Christmas special, the Titanic one, where he pulled it up at the last moment, and the Queen goes, "Thank you, Doctor." I was like, what the
piss poor.
I didn't set up Torchwood to capture you. Or my aunt grandma did.
Yeah. That was just stupid. Yeah. That's what I agree. I don't like all
Pleased it's on telly. Please people enjoy it. But just be slightly more... have a bit more of a shit filter. And don't think, just because this will make people laugh, sat around the telly on Christmas Day, it's not necessarily a good idea. Because Doctor Who's job isn't to be the royal family or Morecambe and Wise Christmas special. It's to be...
but do you think... I felt it felt a bit more 80s, this one, in the fact that there was a little bit bizarre and a little bit sort of... It wasn't sort of attached to the real world
For
quite
me,
so
it's
much.
harked back... Matt Smith and the general feel of it is harked back really quickly to Davison's era of stories like The Awakening and The Visitation, where they're in little British villages. In The Awakening, which isn't on DVD, and it's one of my favourite ones.
Is that the one with the snake thing? What's it
no,
called?
that's Kinder, which is really good. That's a classic.
Is that the one where it's like in a country house?
No, that's one.
That's Black Orchid.
Yeah.
That's a straightforward murder mystery one, which would be nice to do. Which I thought
kind of stuck in
that Agatha Christie one would have been good if they hadn't have had a stupid CGI giant wasp in it, which looked really shit. Just have something that you can do.
Yeah.
So you've got something which is a bit weird, a bit off kilter. What happens in The Awakening is that basically there's a malignant alien life force, as there always is, which has crashed to Earth and is hidden under the church and is basically breaking out. But as he does so, there's a time shift between Cromwellian England and 1984.
What's that book we read?
Yes, very similar to The Devil on the Road. Yeah, so basically you've got Roundheads, they want to burn Tegan at the stake. I think
It's exactly the same as that Robert Westall book.
Which is a very, very good thing. And I'd like to see Doctor Who go back to more weird stuff like that. Rather than like, we've got a giant alien entity.
We've got, what's the alien of the week?
Yeah. That's going to crush the world, which reminded me a bit of the start of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the British TV original 1980s version, which is a piss take really of Doctor Who and stuff like that, where the aliens want to build a bypass.
Of course.
And that's what I got a bit from this episode. I thought it was almost deliberate.
Yeah.
And a bit tongue-in-cheek, possibly of RTD's.
Yeah,
episodes.
Maybe he was ripping the piss a bit.
Yeah. Which, I thought the design of the aliens and stuff with just that big eye and stuff, I thought was a bit daft.
Yeah.
Whereas the ones in RTD's time were just stupid because you've got to think of, you in general don't have to think of it. But I spend a lot of time worrying about the canonicity of these stories and how they would fit into an Earth timeline, where in old Who, you've got things like Dalek invasion of Earth and the 10th Planet, where 1986, the Cybermen invade.
Yeah.
But they invade the South Pole and a few UN headquarters.
Yeah.
They're not on every street.
Yeah.
And then suddenly people forget.
The Time War sort of destroyed all the old ones. But you got to do that, otherwise you would be stuck forever, because you couldn't go beyond the furthest they ever went forwards.
No.
But also, saying that, Russell, you didn't worry about that, because he said we're going to the year 49 million or something like that.
That's silly as well.
Yeah, humans would have evolved into something else.
I'd like to see some episodes a bit like the ones on the X-Files, where one of my favourite ones was where they went to some forest and basically they were cutting down trees, and in the rings of the trees, really old, 4,000-year-old trees, there was grubs that came out and they were killer grubs.
Yeah.
And stuff like that is scientifically plausible.
Yeah,
it's easy to do. It's a really good episode, rather than like, we've got a giant peach in space which is sucking the core out of the earth because its child is an octopus and it needs magma to keep it alive.
Brilliant.
It's like, no.
What marvellous!
Julie, did you hear that? What a great idea.
That just, things like that do my head in. And it just doesn't...
I think you're right. I'm pleased that people like John exist, though, that to really care. It's
because there's so many, like, you look at things like, I know you can say the Time War has changed this, blah, 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 but you look at what, if you're talking about canonicity and timelines and things, I mean, there's lots of websites you can look at that try and explain away the William Hartnell
era
comic strip episodes with John and I can't think what the girl's name is now, and try and fit that, make those canonical, which is absolute nonsense. But you can say Genesis of the Dalek changed the timeline of the stories before it, the Dalek stories, and then you can say Remembrance of the Daleks did the same thing because it destroyed Skaro. You don't know what time zone Skaro is destroyed. But then you can't have the Daleks constantly invading Earth at the end of every series and the Cybermen blowing up Canary Wharf and stuff, and then say, people haven't noticed there's aliens.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's for me, that's the problem.
Because that's bollocks.
Yeah. It's need to make it global all the time.
Yeah, it's just like have them invade a country house or have them invade a villa in Spain.
But why would you come all the way across time and space to invade?
But that's when you have to be a good writer. But I just want to say one thing, and that's we live in an age of miracles, and I think here in this 21st century, I can't believe that 2 out of the 3 people having this conversation are both engaged to be married and managed to convince women to marry them. I was just thinking, wow, man, well, wonders never cease.
Well, Helen is coming back from Bristol to watch Doctor Who today.
Good girl.
She's getting into. She very much likes Matt Smith, and we saw him in The Ruby and the Smoke with Billy Piper a couple of Christmases ago, and he was really good in that. So I actually knew who he was when he said. And so she's really enjoying it. I'm not sure what today's episode will be. Edward said it's a bit like. Do
you want to say this on there, John?
No, it's fine. It's a bit like The Long Game, which is a really shit episode.
Right, but does it mean it might mean something in the future? Because The Long Game was setting up Bad Wolf, wasn't it?
Possibly, but I'm not sure it does. I think it's more like a Happiness Patrol kind of alternative future. Yeah. Just, political. Did you hear the thing about Sylvester McCoy saying they were trying to bring down the Tory government with stories like the Happiness Patrol? And I was just like...
We were out there, we were on the edge.
There were so few people watching that.
About you and Ken Dodds.
About 7 people tuned in. One of them was blind and deaf.
2 of them were us. And 2 were unable to vote.
The rest of them were dead.
Mommy, Daddy, please don't vote for Margaret Thatcher again.
Yeah, that was a very hilarious interview. I don't know why he said that.
Deluded.
Okay. And then Andrew Cartmell saying something like, I'm sure Sylvester thinks what he's saying is right, but...
that wasn't part of my master plan.
That wasn't my master plan.
Okay, well, we better leave it there, John.
The Doctor is Merlin. Yes.
We'll leave that. The Doctor is Merlin. Sorry, we've got to wrap this up quickly, but we've got to get back to England before they close the gates on Wales.
And sacrifice us both.
What's the best thing to come out of Wales, boys?
The M4.
The M4.
Okay, well, it's been brilliant to speak to you again, James. John. Brilliant to speak to you again, John.
Yeah, we'll see you in another 2 years.
Yeah, well, no, well, I hope that we can do this again.
Next time I will be wearing a crash helmet and a leather glove.
And I'm hoping you can get Skype working, then we can do this over the internet.
Oh, imagine that.
That'd be awesome. I'd love it.
Could that happen?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll do that.
That's how I do my American podcast.
I'll do that.
Brilliant.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
be good.
that's
And then
been Creeping With Armstrong in Wales, episode 26.
International.
Yeah,
International.
yeah.
And yeah, we'll speak to you
Next month from the Bristol Comics Convention.
Yeah, well, John might probably be there then.
Top nation shall speak peace unto nation.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
You have been listening to the General Witchfinders. Support the show and continue the conversation at patreon.com/General Witchfinders. Subscribe and spread the word at generalwitchfinders.com. Farewell, and don't have nightmares.